Far away.
Right. Hello, Marchell.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, right. So...
Oh, hello.
Hello, yes.
Which actually, hello, I'll start this one with a bang. Hello is brilliant. Hello is the same word as hallow, as in as in All Hallows.
I thought it was invented by Thomas Edison when he brought the phone in.
No, it used to be helloa.
Hello. Okay. Hello,
that sets the tone of this interview, I think.
Yeah, we're off to a good start, right. So we're talking about the Kolbrin Bible, which you're a fan of. So first of all, what exactly is the Kolbrin Bible then?
I have to say, I am both a fan and not a fan. I'm not a fan because the usual complaint, where has it been all this time? Why have we not seen anything of it since the 18th century, or was it 19th century? I can't remember. I am a fan from what you might call the internal evidence, which speaks for itself, and it's so compelling that I've set aside the not being a fan bit in order to quote from it in The Great Migrations, because it's so convincing.
So what exactly is it then?
It's a collection of works, basically works that were, I think, put together in very early days, and the whole lot was taken to Glastonbury for safekeeping. Now, whether this is the Glastonbury in Somerset or Glastonbury in Warwickshire, I do not know. But there was, I think it probably was the Glastonbury in Somerset, because Henry II, in his lovely foreign way, set fire. Please don't equate Henry II with England, anybody. He was an incoming king, that dynasty, nothing to do with the Lloydrian British at all, not in my name, as one might say. Anyway, he set fire to the abbey, and the monks gathered together as much of the destroyed books as they could possibly find. It was a bit like an early, a late Alexandria, burning of the library at Alexandria. Or do I mean an early one? I think it happened before Alexandria. And they copied down, they were so determined that the Egyptian books that comprised the first half of the Kolbrin should be safe for all time, that they actually copied them down on bronze. What was left after the fire, they copied down on bronze, and it came to be known as the Bronze Book. And this they kept in secret and in hiding throughout the centuries. This is what we are, this is what I deduce, and what indeed the Kolbrin Bible says. And then sometime in the 18th century, it was merged with, this is going to sound extremely heretical or blasphemous or something, but rather in the way that the Old Testament was merged with the works of the New Testament to become the Bible, the Bronze Books, or the Bronze Book, was merged with the Coil Book, which is they described as a book of British wisdom, to become the Kolbrin. So we have these, like the Bible, we have this book in two halves. And I did have a problem with calling it, I still slightly have a problem with calling it a Bible, but then Bible is biblos, which is biblio, which is work, book, and so if people want to call it a Bible, that's fine. It wasn't called a Bible in the early days.
Okay. So when we look at the historical section, what sort of history does that cover? Well,
the Bronze Book there are six sections, and they're called, they deal with the Egyptian history, such as Akhenaten. They describe it as having been translated, this is interesting, translated from Phoenician. Now, let me say here and now, I am no expert on the Kolbrin. There's one woman who is an expert, and that's Yvonne Whiteman.
Right.
She knows far more about it than I do. If she ever sees this, she'd laugh up her sleeve at my ignorance. All I really can do is introduce it and say, don't be afraid to take this work seriously. She can tell you, Yvonne Whiteman, who has collaborated with Graham Hancock for a long time now. I found her work, gosh, it must be 10 years ago. she's the one who really knows about the Kolbrin. If we could get her to speak about it, she could really answer the questions. I can only say, well, this is what I found, and sort of grope after it, but she's the one who really knows her onions, or her onions. It was we have here 15th century.
So I was just going to say, the good news is I have managed to get hold of Yvonne, and she is going to be on soon. So.
Oh, fantastic! Oh, that's really good news. I shall retire into a corner and learn everything I possibly can.
Because, not for a while yet, though.
Well, no, but I mean, any time will do. Yes. That's wonderful. Well done. It says here, languages, BC, 15th century original Egyptian hieratic, how that fits with cumbroglyphics, and your work. It would be fascinating to find out if we could ever lay eyes on the original. I mean, this is an American translation, and it has its problems.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? We don't have
we don't yet have the original. No, yes, we don't yet have the original. But something struck me when I was doing a little bit of work on this for this interview, and that was what's it? I don't know if it was Graham Hancock himself who said that, like Göbekli Tepe, this work has been waiting for the right moment to be revealed, and my hard Scots head dislikes it intensely when I go off into spiritual realms, but we have to accept we are both rational and spiritual beings, and animal beings as well. And really, I think this is another example of the triune thing. We have to, each part of man has to allow for the other part to have its say and have its part of existence. And to my way of thinking, the spiritual idea that there is a mastermind at work behind everything, the more work I do, the more convinced I become that there is a master hand at work behind everything. And the closer we come to seeing through the veil for ourselves, all being is in a state of growth and evolution, not in a bodily way, but in a psychic and spiritual way. Basically, the more spiritually mature we become, the closer to the veil we get, the thinner the veil becomes, and the more we're allowed to see. No hard Scots head. Yes. No, hi, you believe that, you believe anything. But I think it really is true that there are some things that are revealed to us at the right time, and I'm convinced this is one of them.
Yeah, because I know that's one of the things Alan Wilson has said in the past, is the lack of provenance with the Kolbrin is the problem, isn't it?
It is a problem if you don't accept that there's a master hand at work. If you can open up your mind enough to accept, and this is not a criticism of Alan Wilson in any shape or form, but he is of his time. He was laying the groundwork for everything else we're doing. Maybe the veil was thicker then and he couldn't see this, I don't know. Maybe he does see it now, I haven't a clue. It's not a criticism of him in any shape or form. But he does have a point, but maybe when the time is right, the originals will be revealed to us, and we'll be able to see that we were right to trust it. Yeah. I trust it.
I know when Yvonne originally got in touch with me, the hope was we could work out some of the Kolbrin, but we don't have any original symbols or Kolbrin to work from, but there is the names, isn't there?
There is the names, indeed, and the names, we'll have to go to the Mortosh again, the Misty Sea. I thought, well, this is brilliant, Mortosh, because
there's a number of words, and you think
Kolbrin itself, Kolbrin. What on earth could that be? But Kolbrin.
It's so similar.
It's so similar. It sounds to me like. Now let me see if I can think of a.
Because a lot of the words you think have been are anglicised versions.
I think they've been anglicised. Again, it's this thing of hearing something, not knowing what the original spelling is, maybe not understanding the language, the original language. We put down how it hears to a different set of ears. So Kolbrin becomes Kolbrin, which is a Mortosh is another one. More Welsh for sea. Tosh, it's called the Mortosh in this, and it's described as being the Misty Sea. And living as I do in Aberdeenshire, when the mist comes in over the North Sea, is a great yellow greyish bank of what's called har up there, H-A-A-R, might be a Norse word, I don't know, might be an original British word, I haven't a clue. But anyway, I thought Misty Sea, Okay, let's look up Misty in Welsh and see what we come up with. And there it was, Tawch, Torch.
Yeah.
More, and that became transmuted, corrupted if you like, from Mor Torch to Mortosh.
Yes.
And that's an example of, another brilliant example of how different dialects start. Yes, we would have to go through this name by name and see if we can find, work backwards from the anglicisation and the anglicised spellings back into the British and see if we can get at it that way. There is one that I've managed to get at. There's some talk of Hugh Gaddon, Hugh the Mighty,
yes,
coming from a place called Defrabane.
Because I was going to ask you, how does this all tie in with the British migrations, isn't it? I mean, this is or the British Hidden History project that we're doing. This is...
Well...
Hugh Gaddon being one example.
If you look, they talk about Lear's grandparents as being the first ever to build a house on where walled London now stands. And I'm paraphrasing slightly, but that just jumped off the page when I read that. I think that's a misprint. I think it's Lisle, as in Carlisle. But that's, I can't, I'm still working on that. But this business about Hugh Gaddon coming from overseas, a lot of work, people have expended a lot of ink on trying to find out where Defrabane or Defrabane was. And some people say it was what is now Sri Lanka, Ceylon, or other places have been mooted. Was it Horace Walpole who actually... Somebody will correct me if I've got that wrong. I probably have, so please someone correct me. Did a lot of work on Defrabane or Defrabane. But in the Kolbrin, and there's another name, Edavrabandi.
Right.
And it looks so Welsh in spelling. It's spelt, it's Edyfrabandi. But my Welsh is not good enough to get to the bottom of that.
We'll have to break it down, wouldn't we? Yes. So how does it tie with the Britain's Hidden History, do you think, then? I mean, why is this so useful, or potentially useful? The
second half is called the Book of British Wisdom, or the Coil book, merged with, or stuck onto the Bronze Book to become the Kolbrin Bible. But in this is actually the Book of Britain, and it talks about Jesus, and there are dates. Again, I only found this a couple of days ago, so and numbers are not my thing, but if you work out, according to this, when Jesus was born, and it gives you all the clues you need, and then you take, it says it's the 1090th year of Britain. Well, if you use their, I'm not saying necessarily they're right, but hang on a moment, because if you take their calculations, their figures rather, and you make your own calculations and you work back, you get this magical BC year 1067, which is when Ephraim the Mighty, who might be Hugh Gaddon, it's a bit of a coincidence to have two kings called Mighty at the same time. Anyway, still working on that one. But you get to this magical year 1067 BC, which is in the period of oral traditions and chronology as 500 years after Albine came. So that's another corroboration for Albine's invasion, all right, slightly at second hand, but I don't know the Kolbrin well enough to say, well, I can point to this as proof or that as proof, but...
it's dealing with the same subject matter. That's the key,
there are clues scattered throughout. One place where there really is proof is when it talks about Brutus, whom it doesn't name he doesn't call it him Brutus, but he talks about the captain, he talks about him as captain of men, and do you want me to see if I can find the... I have to say something about this thing about Diana. I can't resist it. The scene with Diana on the island in the Kolbrin is cooked up by Brutus to get the elders to agree to take him to come with him to sanction the whole
trip. You
trip.
can't explain what happens. He goes there and he has to have a dream, doesn't he?
Well, this is how it appears in the British records, but in the Kolbrin, he's cooked the whole thing up.
Oh yes, yes.
So that he can persuade the elders to agree to it.
It has to appear like.
Oh, it has to appear, yes.
Like some sort of oracle.
But in the Kolbrin, it's the Laban the armourer's daughter who hides behind a pillar and pretends to be the voice of Diana, and it's so believable.
That is believable, isn't it?
Yes. And it fits in so well with Brutus's slippery character. And if this man has got an island to win and a throne to win, and he's 7 generations removed from Lear, who was the common ancestor between the fighting kings on the throne of Britain, and Brutus, who's come to...
put it all back together, yeah.
Well, civil war is raging in Britain, and Brutus... I think has been, I can't prove this for a second, but I think he's been asked to come. He's a fighting man. I think he's been asked to come and take over the throne and restore peace. But he can't possibly put such a warlike ambition to the elders, because they're spiritual men and they will want a spiritual reason for going to this island. And I think that's why he cooks it up. And to my... I know I sound completely English, but I have a very hard Scots head, and to me that makes much more sense than falling into dreams.
Yeah, I'm not sure it has to be that subtle, really. I think it's most of these kings and generals like to say they got divine inspiration, or it's God's on our side kind of argument.
Yes, yes, they do, and sometimes they even have. Is it not zeitgeist? That's the spirit of time, isn't it? But there is a divinity. Rough hews our ends. There's a divinity that shapes our ends. Rough hew them how we will. And sometimes when you've got an important country to win and you are the lawful, legitimate descendant of the last common king, like Brutus is the last legitimate descendant of Lear, and he's got an important country like Britain to win, then yes, I think there is an urge that moves people in the right direction to accomplish a divine purpose. I can't put it any way other than that, I don't think. So yes, please go have a look at the Kolbrin, make up your own mind about it, and just keep an open mind, because it constantly surprises me. Every time I look at this thing, I find something else. Echoes of the Iliad, and I still haven't found it, and even though we switched off and again, I still can't find it.
That's why I come back to that.
It's the internal evidence. Yes, it'll all be in the book. That's all I can say. It'll all be in the book. Please read the book. Yeah, it's a fascinating piece of work, and another really, really important connection between Britain and Egypt. Somebody thought it was worthwhile to put the bronze books together with the Coil book, which is described as British wisdom, a book of British wisdom, and they were put together.
Why have they picked Egypt of all the countries on the world?
Exactly.
They could have picked. Yes.
Exactly. If it's not, if it hasn't got a British conception, we haven't got hieroglyphics.
No copies of hieroglyphics to show off.
Next door, hieroglyphics.
But the first edition there.
Either will do. The second is brilliant. But if we've got this fascinating, logical, to my mind, irrefutable connection between Britain and Egypt in your wonderful book, Hieroglyphics.
Well, the language has a link, definitely.
The language is a link. And now you have another link in the Kolbrin. So, yes, please read it, people, please. And never mind what hard-bitten, closed-mind academics say. Poor things, they are on the run and they know it. And that's why they're being so nasty at the moment, I think, because they know they're on the run. Their way of looking at you've got to be rational, yes, and you've got to be not sceptical. You've got to ask questions. All through my researches, I've asked the most awkward questions, and every time I've asked an awkward question of the material, I've been given an answer. Every time I've asked a question of a conventional source, like a theologian, I haven't got a proper answer. And the more questions I've asked, the more I've found out. And that, to my mind, is proof that I've been on the right track.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is the thing about this. It doesn't... all this alternative, if you want to call it that, or authentic, line of research doesn't seem to fall over at any point.
No, it doesn't.
It all seems to support each other. It
Yes,
seems to be
absolutely.
a point where suddenly go, oh, hang on, this all goes wrong because suddenly they're saying this.
Yes, no. They really knew, these masters of wisdom. They really were masters of wisdom. They knew exactly what to say, how to say. They even knew what sort of a trail to lay so that we who came after them with noses and eyes to see and ears to hear, as the Bible says, we would know how to cut a path through the jungle. And to my mind, this is one heck of an oasis of spiritual teaching and history as well. History of our country and of Egypt, and please go and read it.
Well, I think after that most people will.
I hope so.
Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it informative. Britain's Hidden History group has so much more going on our YouTube channel. The one you're watching now, there's a live stream, 8 o'clock UK time every Sunday. We speak to people like Wilson and Blackett, reprint their old books and help produce new ones. We go researching to the tops of mountains, all the way down to the bottoms of caves. Busily recording the books, so you can listen to them as well, and looking at mysteries and working out what we're not being taught in schools and preserving it, because the physical and written evidence is rapidly disappearing. You can also find out how to read ancient writing and hieroglyphs using the Welsh language. It's amazing. There's a Facebook group where this is being discussed. Along with a website, you can buy the books and help us. Also, as you can see, there's now a Patreon page where just a few pounds a month will make all the difference in trying to keep the project going and preserve this history for future generations, and also to find out for ourselves what is going on, what is Britain's hidden history. So until the next time, Heddwch!